Zhou Guan Yu's crash on the first lap at Silverstone was one of the worst in recent memories. It is incredible how well his car protected him as he slid upside down for over 200 meters before flipping over the tyre barrier and landing lodged between the catch fence and the back of the tyre barrier. But should the accident ever have been allowed to happen? Should the regulations have more stringent safety inclusions? The head of the Grand Prix Drivers Association definitely thinks so. Today, we're going to fill you in on how the crash happened, how Zhou survived, and what the GPDA is demanding of the FIA. Let's start off by talking about the crash itself. The start of the Silverstone Grand Prix was a bit of a mess, to be honest, and that was before 5 cars retired from the race. Quite a few drivers had really poor starts for one reason or another, which meant there was a lot of overtaking straight off the line. Cars were all over the place, and George Russell tried to move left into the first corner to block off Pierre Gasly, but underestimated how close the AlphaTauri driver was to him. The young Brit turned his W13 into the front end of Gasly's AT03, instantly spinning his car to the left and hitting the back right side of Zhou Guan Yu's car, just in front of the tyre. Zhou's wheel climbed over the nose of the W13, and a combination of the right-hand side of his car lifting and the car being turned to the right meant he instantly flipped upside down. He then slid the rest of the way down the pit straight upside down, leaving huge gouges in the Silverstone track surface as he went. Once he hit the gravel trap, the halo and eventually the side of the car dug in, flipping him over at the worst possible moment. He was catapulted over the tyre barrier and into the catch fence. The fence is designed to catch debris, not entire cars, so thankfully it was strong enough to hold him and stop him from hitting the spectators. There are 2 parts of this accident that we're going to focus on. The failure of his roll hoop and the Grand Prix Drivers Association's demand for safety changes is one. But first, let's have a look at the halo and how that piece saved his life. If you compare the cars prior to the 2018 season and now, you'll notice one curved bar that sits in front of the driver's head. This curved bar is called the halo, and it is used to protect the driver's head from serious injuries, such as in Zhou Guan Yu's situation in Silverstone. The FIA made it mandatory on every vehicle in F1, F2, F3, Formula Regional, Formula E and Formula 4 from the 2018 season and beyond. The system consists of a bar that surrounds the driver's head and is connected by 3 points to the vehicle frame. The halo was introduced in the aftermath of Jules Bianchi's death at the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix. The Marussia driver lost control of his car and drifted into the runoff area at Suzuka's Turn 7 before colliding with the rear of a tractor crane. Because of the severity of the accident, the tractor crane was partially jolted off the ground, causing Adrian Sutil's Sauber, which was suspended in the air by the crane, to fall back to the ground. CT scans showed Bianchi suffered a severe head injury in the crash and that he would be admitted to intensive care following surgery. The FIA document stated that he hit the crane at around 76 miles per hour and the crash generated 254 Gs of force. He was the first driver to die from injury sustained in a Formula 1 car crash since Ayrton Senna in 1994, and the accident shook the world. The FIA responded decisively at the time, and despite an incredible amount of media, fan and driver pressure against the move, they implemented the halo in 2018. Lewis Hamilton dubbed it the worst looking mod in F1 history, but would be saved by the device just 3 years later at the Italian Grand Prix in 2021. The 7-time world champion collided with Max Verstappen, causing the Red Bull driver's car to go over the top of Hamilton's car, hitting his head in the process. But thanks to the presence of the halo, most of the Red Bull's car weight was absorbed by the car, not Hamilton's head. Following the incident, he stated, "I feel very, very fortunate today. Thank God for the halo. That ultimately saved me and saved my neck. I don't think I've ever been hit on the head by a car before, and it is quite a shock for me." Another notable instance of the halo saving a Formula 1 driver's life occurred at the 2018 Bahrain Grand Prix. Romain Grosjean, a Haas driver at the time, crashed into a barrier at 119 miles per hour, resulting in his car splitting in two and catching on fire. He got badly burned on his hands and feet, but had no lasting injuries, and he now drives an IndyCar. If it hadn't been for the halo, Romain's head would have taken the force of the collision and would likely have suffered similar injuries to those of Bianchi. The halo works so well in the case of Zhou Guan Yu's crash at Silverstone this year that he was seen walking around the paddock later that day with absolutely no injuries. Which, when you see the footage of the crash, is almost unbelievable. There was one big problem with Zhou's crash though, and it should never have been as spectacular as it was. As well as the halo, drivers also have a roll hoop on their car to protect them in the rare event that an F1 car flips over, like happened at Silverstone. Contrary to what we've seen in a lot of places, these are not the same piece of equipment. We can understand the confusion. The halo does look a lot like a hoop, but I promise you they aren't the same thing. The rollover hoop in F1 is mounted on top of the chassis and provides protection to the driver in the rare event the car flips upside down. The general idea is for the car to be supported by the rollover hoop while it's inverted, and give the driver room to wriggle out if he can. To ensure the driver is protected by it, an invisible line is drawn from the top of the crash structure down to the cockpit, which the driver's head must not pass through to be deemed safe. It is an important safety device, with teams undergoing strict FIA crash tests before they can sign off on a new car. In Zhou's case, the rollover hoop and halo did do their job in protecting the driver. However, once Zhou's wreckage had been recovered, the top of the Alfa Romeo and the rollover hoop were gone, leaving the car looking something like a pancake, and this is a problem. Images of the crash in progress show that the roll hoop failed almost instantly after he was flipped. The FIA automatically launches investigations into accidents like this, and what they'll want to better understand is what forces were at play and the scale and number of impacts the roll hoop took during the sequences of the crash. One factor that stands out is that the Alfa Romeo is unique in the F1 grid in 2022 in running a blade-style roll structure. The choice of a blade roll structure has been favoured over a traditional hoop for two reasons: aerodynamic gains and weight. Most teams have struggled to get their cars down to the minimum allowed weight this season, but AlphaTauri have not been on that list. It's important to clarify that the design used by Alfa Romeo has passed the requisite crash tests imposed by the FIA. They're definitely not at fault here. The point is there a way that the rules could be changed to ensure this doesn't happen again? Grand Prix Drivers Association chairman Alex Wurz certainly thinks so, and has called on the FIA to make further Formula 1 safety improvements that address the failure of the roll hoop in Zhou's crash. On Tuesday evening after the Grand Prix, Wurz took to social media to ask FIA President Mohammed Ben Sulayem to please check your inbox about the need for action in response to the accident. Wurz is an ex-driver himself and was actually involved in a crash in 1999 that led to regulation changes regarding the roll hoop to improve safety. Last time, as far as I remember, an F1 car roll hub collapsing was with Pedro Diniz, Nürburgring 99, jumping over me, said Wurz in his tweet. This led to stricter crash tests requested by GPDA, swiftly executed and implemented by @FIA. Dear Mr. President, please check your inbox. We got more work to do. As chairman of the GPDA, it is Wurz's job to protect drivers and lobby for improvements to their safety. Some people may ask why changes need to be made, as Zhou walked away completely unharmed. The next time this type of accident happens, things could go very differently, and a driver could be seriously injured. Whenever there is a crash of this magnitude, the FIA launches an investigation in an attempt to learn from it and see if there was anything that could have been done better to protect the driver. In this case, it definitely seems like there are some points to learn from. Mercedes test driver Anthony Davidson has called for the FIA to look at the safety of F1's roll hoops. Davidson said the roll hoop really didn't do its job, and said the FIA would likely be asking questions. He added F1 roll hoops should be as strong as the halo to ensure they can protect drivers' heads at all times. Speaking to Sky Sports News, he said, "The main thing I think the FIA will look into are the scary images I've seen of the car from the aftermath of the crash, where the actual roll hoop seems to be missing. That really didn't do its job if you think about it. The roll hoop should be as strong as the halo, stay intact at all times and protect the driver's head from impact, and it didn't do that. So they'll be asking questions with that." Teams have been critical of the FIA for being over-involved in recent months with rules updates and changes that many people have deemed unnecessary or poorly implemented. Now is a chance for the FIA to prove that it can be involved in a constructive way and quickly implement changes to the technical regulations and safety tests to protect drivers better in the future. What was your first reaction when you saw Zhou's crash live? Let us know your thoughts on F1 safety standards in the comments below, and until next time, drive safe and bye-bye.